Done.
Hello everybody. I thought I'd bring you another recipe as you're getting another food box this month. And because it was pancake day last week, I thought I would show you how to make a really simple pancake batter. I'm not going to actually show you how to make traditional pancakes. I'm going to do a different pancake with you, which is a savoury pancake, but so that you don't have to look up if you want to just make a normal pancake, so you don't have to look it up. I'm going to show you the most simple recipe for it. It's 2 eggs, so crack your eggs, give them a whisk, add a whole mug of milk. Any milk is fine, semi-skimmed, skimmed, whole milk, doesn't matter. Not a massive mug, just a normal kind of size mug, like this, almost full. And then you want about half the quantity of flour in there. So I've got about half a mug of flour, and just whisk it. And that is literally it. 2 eggs, a mug of milk, and half a mug of flour. Whisk it. You'll see in some recipes that it says to rest the batter, and I don't know why it works, but it does work. It makes the batter a bit easier to cook with. And remember, when you're doing your pancakes, the first one will always be rubbish, always. So heat your oil in a frying pan. Get your oil as hot as you can, and then tip it out. So I would have, I'm going to show you in a sec when I do the savoury pancake, but I'd have a little mug or something like that. When you've coated the bottom of your frying pan, just tip out the excess oil into a little mug, and then every time you make your next pancake, you can just pop it in. Anyway, today, our recipe starts the same. So we've got half a mug of flour, we've got 2 eggs. Crack our eggs. First of all, I'm going to get that milk out the way because this one doesn't have milk, it has water. So crack the eggs to start off. Make sure you get all the egg out of there so we don't waste any. And we're going to give them a little whisk before we add anything else, just because it's a bit easier to whisk the egg then. So you can just use a fork for whisking, you don't have to have a whisk. So you want all the yolk to be mixed in. It doesn't need to be super mixed, but so that it's all sort of crushed up together. And then it has, so this is kind of like a Japanese inspired recipe. So it has soy sauce in it, but if you don't have any soy sauce, then just use something else that might add a little bit of flavour to it. So something like paprika as spice, or any spice that you like a sort of like a nice curry-ish flavour, and definitely add pepper to it. If you're not putting soy sauce in, soy sauce is quite salty, but if you're not putting soy sauce in, then add a little bit of salt for flavour as well. So we need about a tablespoon of this. I'd just say it's kind of like a generous portion like that. It doesn't really matter. Soy sauce is just great for flavour, so you're not really going to have too much of it. It's nice for dipping the pancake in as well, so if you have got some, it could be nice to buy. and then add your flour, so half a mug, and then we're going to add about a quarter of a mug, so about half your quantity of flour of just water instead of milk. You can always add a bit and see how it is. This batter has a lot less liquid than a traditional pancake batter, so you want it to look quite stiff. You don't want it to be really thin. And just keep whisking. It's a really good recipe for using things up. So today we're going to put cabbage and carrot in it, but you can put lots of different veg in it. So if you've got, I don't know, some kale, some spinach, broccoli, like any nice greens would work really well. So it's kind of nice, got a few lumps in there, but it's mainly nice, smooth, very thick batter. We're now going to add our veg. So ideally, if you had a spring onion, a couple of spring onions, that would be really nice, chopped finely. I don't have them today, and I don't really want to put normal onion in it because I think it would be a bit too strong in flavour. So I'm going to do without the onion today, but if you've got some spring onions, add it in. Get your cabbage, take off any of the outer leaves that are a bit droopy or a bit brown. You don't want them, so just take them off and put them to one side, and then cut your cabbage in half. This is quite a small cabbage, so I think I'll probably end up using all of it. This here is the core in the cabbage. If it's a round cabbage, the core will look slightly different. It might go a bit further up. There's nothing wrong with the core, but it's a bit tough, so I would just cut it out. So kind of do a triangle, like a V, just to cut out that core. Cut it out from both sides. Now, you've got a choice of what you want to do, how you want to cut your cabbage. You can just turn it that way up so it's flat on the board, so it's a lot easier to cut, and just cut really thin sort of slices of it like that, as thin as you can, keeping your fingers well out of the way of your knife. Or if you've got a grater, you can get your grater and hold your cabbage quite firmly so that it keeps well together, because the leaves will try and fall off, and you can grate it, which gives a bit of a finer cabbage, which is quite nice in this recipe, and it will mean that the cabbage cooks a bit faster when it's in the batter as well, which is quite handy. So I'm just going to grate a bit more of that. This cabbage is called a sweetheart cabbage or a hispy cabbage, and it's a bit more of a sort of summery cabbage, but you can do it with anything. Red cabbage, white cabbage, Savoy cabbage, anything you've got. And it's quite a handy recipe as well, because if you see a cabbage in a veg shop or the supermarket that's looking a bit sorry for itself, and it's reduced, you can get it, and so long as you take off those outer leaves, it'll be absolutely fine underneath. It'll be really nice in this recipe. So we've pretty much got half the cabbage done here, nice and fine. You can always get those last bits that are a bit tricky to grate and just chop them with your knife. You're trying to avoid there being any sort of big leaves in it like that, so just gather them all up and cut them finely. And then we're going to add some carrot to it as well, so sort of 1 large carrot, or if they're not super big you might want to use 2. So get your carrots and cut the ends off them. Peel them. Just take that outer skin off. Again, this is a really good recipe for using up, like if you've got a few slightly older looking carrots. It's a great way of using them up. And then just give that one a grate as well. At the end. I've got here some ginger as well. It's a funny looking vegetable. It's kind of like a root. But if you like the idea of ginger and like the flavour of it, and you've got some or you see some about and want to try it, I'd definitely recommend just having a go with it. You peel it, and you can just peel it in sections if you're not going to use it all. So when you peel it, you get this lovely fresh flesh coming through. So it then looks really smooth and clean, so it goes from being sort of knobbly like that. And I'm just going to grate a little bit to go into it as well. It's a really nice flavour, and ginger works really well with kind of salty and spicy things, so with the soy it's a really nice accompaniment. So grate a bit of ginger in and just make sure it's all come out from the inside. Then I'm going to add all the cabbage and carrot into my batter and see how I'm doing, like if I need a bit more cabbage or what it's looking like. So just give it a nice mix around. Probably looking all right. It could probably do with a tiny bit more cabbage if I wanted, but I'm going to get heating some oil up. So you can always put in more oil than you need, and then just tip it out and wait and use it in your next pancake. Just make sure it's coating the whole bottom of the pan. This is a non-stick frying pan, and really you do need a non-stick frying pan because it will stick otherwise, and it won't be much fun to cook. You can make these as like small pancakes, like kind of more like a fritter, I suppose. But I'm going to make this as a big one. So I'm going to wait for that oil to really, really heat up. And I'm going to get a big spoon because I think it will be a bit easier to spoon the mixture in. And you're looking for kind of a thinnish layer. It's not thin like a sweet pancake. It's like sort of about that thick. I'm just going to wait a bit longer for my oil to be really nice and thick. So I can feel the heat coming off the pan now, but I can also smell when the oil starts heating up. You can smell it a bit more. So you might be able to smell that it's kind of hot enough. It sounds funny, but you can kind of smell it cooking. If you want to, you could get a tiny bit of your batter, and you could drop it into the oil and see whether it starts sizzling. So it is beginning to cook there. It's not super hot, so I'm just going to wait a little bit longer, and then I'm going to tip some of that oil off because I don't want it to be really oily and greasy. So I think I'll tip that away now and start to add some batter. So I'm literally have left like the bare minimum of oil in the pan, but it will have coated the bottom. And then I'm going to spoon this cabbage pancake in, and as I spoon it in, I'm just going to kind of squish it down a little bit. And I want it to be quite a large pancake that covers the whole of the frying pan. But you can do smaller ones, it's entirely up to you, but I'm going to do one about that size. And I'm going to push it down. And you can keep doing this, keep pushing it down. And if at first you think it's stuck to your pan, don't panic, because the more it cooks, generally, fingers crossed, it will come away from the pan. To serve it, you can have some chili sauce or some mayonnaise, or you could add some chili sauce or like a spicy Tabasco or something like that to a mayonnaise, and drizzle it across the top, or you could just serve it with some soy sauce or just on its own, however you like it. And you could experiment with what other flavours you might like to add to it. If you don't have soy sauce, you might want to add some different spices, add different veg. You could do one just with spring onion, or you could add some sweet corn or something like that, and add some cheese to it. to give it a second longer, and then I'm going to try and flip it over. We'll see. I'm going to say, while we're waiting for this to cook, in your box this week, this month, you're going to have a very large pack of feta cheese. So if you're stuck for ideas of what to do with feta cheese, you could put some in a pancake batter actually. It'd be quite nice, like a sort of a cheesy fritter. Or if any of you use TikTok, if you look up TikTok pasta, it shows you a recipe of how to bake feta in an oven, and it makes a really nice pasta sauce. So have a go at that. Here we go. I'm going to try. I'm not holding out much hope for this, but we're going to give it a go. I don't know how I'm going to do this. There we go. So you can see that the bottom, that's now the top, is toasted really nicely, and then if you squish it down a bit more, the other side will cook, and just make sure it's cooked all the way through, and then you won't get that sort of raw flour flavour to it. If you're worried about flipping pancakes or things like that, just have a go. It doesn't matter. And like I said, the first one is always the hardest because the pan isn't hot enough, or it doesn't have enough oil, and the more you do, the easier they'll come away from the pan, and the less likely they are to stick. But that is pretty much it. Just, you can see actually here, if I move it, it's really easy to move now. So it will be pretty much cooked on the other side now, I reckon. Have a little look. Yeah. So it's the same sort of cookedness on the top and the bottom. Just, that's it. Take it out. If there's a couple of you eating, just cut it in half and divide it between you, and dip it in your soy sauce, or do a nice zigzag of mayo on the top of it, and enjoy.